This episode is brought to you in part by the Table Podcast from the Hendricks Center at Dallas Theological Seminary. I'm Darrell Bach, one of the hosts, and I invite you to join us as we discuss issues of God and culture, which includes anything and everything. Listen on your podcast app or at dts.edu/thetable.
Welcome to Grace Enough Podcast and the 12 Days of Christmas in July series, brought to you by schoolhouseteachers.com. A firm Christian-based worldview is the springboard needed in today's world, which can be attained with a schoolhouseteachers.com education. Use code EXPLORE to pay only $179 for a 2-year ultimate membership during schoolhouseteachers.com Explore the World BOGO event. This is an incredible savings opportunity. Sign up now and receive a complimentary Explore the World tote while supplies last. Certain restrictions will apply. With your schoolhouseteachers.com membership, you can create your own homeschool schedule using over 400 unique courses, videos, lap books, unit studies, and more. One price covers the entire family, giving you immediate access to hundreds of resources, including virtual school boxes for kindergartners through high schoolers. Sign up at schoolhouseteachers.com using code EXPLORE today. Now, let's jump in to our 12 Days of Christmas in July series. Is your list of new places to shop for gifts filling up? I hope so, because the purpose of 12 Days of Christmas in July was to introduce you to businesses and creators who I not only recommend, but who are making a positive impact in the world. Day 11 is no different. Green Roof Gallery has become my favorite shop for leather earrings and other leather products. Good morning, Bethany, and welcome to the Grace Enough Podcast.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here today. I am looking forward to sharing Green Roof Gallery with my audience. If any of the people listening have been around, they know that I've shared it some on Instagram, but go ahead and tell us, what is Green Roof Gallery?
So in a nutshell, Green Roof Gallery is a simple and unique leather company that makes accessories for those who just love a natural style, a little bit of unique mixed in. So a lot of earth tone colors, things that can just be used for every day, whether it's a pair of earrings or a journal or a little clutch, just simple every day.
Yeah, and I didn't ask you previously, but you guys hand paint all the ones that are painted. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. And I know
That's
you
so
and I will
cool.
talk about that. You asked me some questions about
Yeah.
that, but yeah, we do.
That's
It's
so
quite the
cool.
process.
Well, tell us a little bit of the backstory of Green Roof Gallery. Like what prompted you to get it started? How long has it been around? All the things.
Yes. So we have to back up about 25 to 30 years. And don't worry, I won't go through that many years. But when I was a little girl, my grandpa was a butcher and he would butcher beef cattle and he would keep the hides and he would start the tanning process and store them up in a barn at their retired farm. And as kids, we hung out there a lot. And I was just fascinated by the beginning process, I guess, of what was the beginning of the leather process, I guess. And they had a meat shop at their house. And we just loved being with our grandparents. My grandma was 100% blind and she packaged up all the meat and stamped it. It's crazy. It was just a
Wow.
neat, super fun, super safe place. And that was that. So let's fast forward 25 years. Both my grandparents have passed away. They passed away very young and somewhat unexpectedly. And at this point in life, I was in counseling. I was kind of working through just a hard time in my life. And I don't know if you have ever been in counseling, but I know you've talked a ton on your
Yes.
podcast about just working through hard times. And sometimes we have to visit the past a little bit. And sometimes that can be painful. And in that time, I came to learn that my grandpa was not a very nice dad to his daughters. And one of them is my mom. And her two sisters when they were growing up. And this was a shock to me. I had no clue. And this was not a man I knew at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but it was during this time that I really became interested in a pair of leather earrings. Like one pair of leather earrings, a simple thing. And as I looked around, I saw the same thing everywhere. And I just wanted something different, something unique. And so, like I said, I don't know why, but looking back, I can see that God was kind of stirring something, kind of this story. And I was terrified. I didn't know anything other than the cowhides that my grandpa stored up in that barn. Let my guard down. I went to the leather store. I literally took my phone and opened it up to Pinterest. And I said, hey, I want to make things like this. What do I need? I know. And the person was like, this is my first week here. I'm like, well, praise Jesus. We both don't know what we're doing.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. It just kind of like cut that nervousness a little bit. So what started out as a hobby gradually turned into a small business. And my husband and I were at the point where we needed to name this and start paying taxes and doing like the legal side of it, you know? And one night my husband, his name is Greg, he said, what about Green Roof Gallery? And I was like, it sounds too fancy. Like gallery, we're not fancy people, Greg. We live in the country. But I couldn't shake that name and it kept coming back to me. So I am a word nerd. And so I took my dictionary on my phone and I looked up the word gallery, and this is what I found. A gallery is a structure projecting from an interior wall of like an auditorium or a church, and it's meant to accommodate additional people. So we can see that picture, right? You think of theaters, you think of maybe churches that have a balcony. But then this was a part that got me. It said this is especially referred to as the highest balcony in a theater, commonly having the cheapest seats. It's meant for the people who can't afford to see the show up close. And then as I kind of kept looking into that, I read a conversation in a thread and someone asked, is upper gallery seating good? And they wanted to know, hey, if I'm going to buy tickets and there's upper gallery seating open, should I buy them or not? And the first answer that I saw on this thread, this is in quotes, it says, with upper gallery seats, you're right up high looking down on the actors. It's okay if you're in the front row or in the front part of the stage, but generally they're really not very good seats. And if someone goes to any part of Green Roof Gallery, they will see a barn. We use a barn as our logo. That picture, that logo is the white barn where those hides used to be stored up. It's a white barn with a green roof. And this was the barn that belonged to my grandparents. This was the barn that we played at and adventured in when we were kids. This was the barn that my mom and her sisters worked in when they were kids, when it was the quote unquote upper gallery seating, when their view was not very good. I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
I love that though.
It goes deep. So this is where we got the name Green Roof Gallery from. And that's kind of the beginning of this story where I'm like, okay, God, I think this is more than just a pair of leather earrings. You're really revealing to me a story here.
And how long ago was that?
Oh my goodness. This was like literally 4 years ago. It's really not been that long, but yeah, it was still kind of a hobby. We legalized our business 3.5 years ago.
That's so neat because I mean, really, that doesn't seem that long ago to you, but anybody that's into earrings, like that was the beginning of leather earrings. I mean,
Yeah, it
that are
was.
popular right now.
Yes.
That was the very beginning, really. So that is interesting. Well, you've shared a little bit with me about why you use leather, and you just shared a little bit about it as well, in the sense of it's something that brings you back to your grandparents. It's also just something that you saw that was, unique, but you wanted something more unique. And so, how did you really view leather as something that parallels our lives? Will you share a little bit about that with our listeners and how, when you're working through the process of creating these leather earrings, that you think about the way it parallels our lives?
So when we make anything out of leather, we buy leather usually by a half of a hide. So that is like half of a cow. It's a really big piece of leather. And when we go to a leather store, we specifically look for leather that has scars. Sometimes they have brands in them. If there's a brand in one, we snatch it up. Anything that is like against perfection, I guess you could say, we are just drawn to that. We take it home. And I say we because my husband helps out with this. I do most of it, but definitely he helps me out as well. He's our books guy also, which is a good thing because I don't do well with numbers.
I'm into that. Girl, me neither.
Ugh. So we look at this piece of leather and whether he cuts it up or I cut it up, and we say, okay, this part of the leather is going to be good for journals. This part of the leather is going to be good for earrings. This part we can cut into strips for bracelets. And we really start planning specifically different parts of the leather and what they're going to be used for. And so as we're doing that, I work alone a lot. My husband works a full-time job, so it's me down in our workshop. I've kind of started to view that as we all have different paths in life. Run your mile, run your race. And I was listening to your podcast with, I hope I say her name right, Vivian Mabuni.
That's her. Girl, you got
right?
it. You must have been
All
practicing
right.
that one because I never get them right. So I even have to practice.
I said it once. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It'll come out fine. And you guys talked about just run your race, like do what's in front of you. And sometimes that's really scary. It's vulnerable. So we get these pieces cut out and we set them aside. And then I'll just use earrings for an example. I take a piece of leather and I hand stamp it, put a pattern into it. Like you said, I paint it. There's so many details that go into this. And as I was working on a pair of earrings one day, it just kind of hit me like, Bethany, it's so important to fight against comparison. It's so easy to look at all these other people that make leather pieces and be like, well, theirs are really popular. Hers are really pretty. And I don't know if these are very good. And so many times, and I know you talk about this a ton, is the value of fighting against comparison. Comparison robs our joy. Comparison just stinks, man. It'll take your lunch, and run away with it. And so this big piece of leather that starts out as a big piece gets broken down. And I've kind of thought about these different points. It's scary to cut up the leather. I remember the first time we cut up a piece of leather, I was like, I cannot do this. What if I ruin it? And God's like, but can you surrender to me? Can you let me take different parts of your life and do with it what I want? And then as I pound and stamp into it, like once you pound into leather, you can't undo it. It's not like you can erase it and take it away. And God's like, do you trust me with the life events that I bring into your path? Do you trust the way that I'm going to shape you? And as I paint and dye, sometimes it doesn't make sense. There are some really messy parts in this. And it's not until the final sealing where all that excess is wiped away and God's like, okay, I've given you a different seat. You're not in that upper gallery. I've kind of made things a little bit more clear to you. And beautiful things can come out of the unknown. And when you were talking with Vivian, she talked about willingness. Can I just come to God with open hands and trust even when I don't see the big picture?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, and it is amazing what we can learn and kind of how our theology sometimes can be shaped as we not only just read God's word and learn in that way, but then certain things like crafts in our life, our jobs. For example, with me just learning how to garden, how that can just really start paralleling and bring some clearer pictures to our mind about what God is doing. It's really incredible.
it is. And I used to be just so I guess intimidated by the word. Like I had a hard time
Mm,
applying scripture because sometimes it just didn't make sense to me. And God's like, Bethany, I'm not complicated. There are parts of me that are not meant for you to understand until heaven someday. And so it was just an absolute treat that he gave me a leather craft. I did not grow up with this stuff. And I had to learn it, but that he revealed himself through that.
mm.
And So kind of like the earrings you ordered, they're the real deal. What you see on the outside is meant to reflect what's on the inside. They're handmade. They're not perfect. If you look at your two earrings, the pattern is going to be, it's going to look like they're the same. But if you were to kind of really take apart the details, you'll see, oh, well, this one is not quite as centered as the other one, whatever. But they're beautiful.
They are. I love them.
I'm glad that you do. So.
I do so very much. And I love that you said the first pair you saw, you kept seeing them everywhere and you just wanted something a little bit more unique, because when I saw the earrings that you make, that was exactly what I thought. Well, I have all these like leather kind of feathery earrings and I love them and I wear them frequently, but they all do look pretty similar. And then I saw yours and I was like, oh my gosh,
These
I'm
are
in
different.
love. I'm in love all over again. So tell me, what do you love about the work that you're doing with Green Roof Gallery? I mean, I feel like you've told us parts of that already, but is there anything else you want to share?
Like I said, I work alone a lot. We turned our basement into a workshop. And when the kids go to school, I go to work. I drop them off, I come home, and I go into the workshop, and that is my work. And so the part that I love the most is the people I get to connect with. So I've kind of showed or told you about like how pieces are made and all that jazz. And so when I get to see people in person, like we go to a market or a fair or something like that, I can't tell you how many times people will pick up a journal or a pair of earrings or a bracelet and they'll be like, this is so different. Like they're just almost intrigued. And I have people ask me like, this is leather? And so that kind of opens the door to sharing different facets of that leather work. And I'm always praying. I'm always being in tune with the Holy Spirit and where he guides. And so people I get to connect with, and there's kind of two different people, I would say. One is a person who's a believer and they have a relationship with Jesus. And I'm sure that you've had this before, but it's like this instant connection where you don't know, but you're like, okay, we're kind of on the same track here. And I've had people ask me, I'm not kidding, like at a market, we'll just be talking about leather, about earrings, about life. And they'll look at me and they'll say, are you a believer? And I'll be like, yeah, are you? And she's like, yeah. She's like, I could tell there was something different. And so when we get to that point, it's an opportunity to encourage, to listen to their story, to kind of see the leather work process that I just shared with you, kind of see like, where are they at? Are they in the upper gallery seating where like, man, I'm just going through a hard time in life and I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And be able to share that part of the process with them. And sometimes it's somebody who they might not know Jesus. They might not have a relationship with him. And God's like, okay, Bethany, your job right now is just to plant a seed, just to say, just to leave it at something's different about these. And it's like, yeah, they're handmade and hand stamped. And like you said, do you hand paint your earrings? Yeah. And we just leave it at that. Something's different. And so that is one of my favorite parts of Green Roof Gallery is it's kind of almost like a way to witness to people, to walk us alongside other believers, just by listening and seeing, okay, where are they at in this story of leather work, I guess you can say.
Very cool. Well, tell everybody, what is one of your favorite products? And then maybe what a few of the most popular products are that you make at Green Roof.
Sure. One of the most popular things we sell is a specific pair of earrings. They're a little double hoop earring, an antique brass, and they're just connected with a hand stamped leather piece. They're simple. Everyone says they just go with everything. I love them. And one of I would say that's probably one of our biggest sellers. One of our favorite pieces that we have a hard time keeping stock is our journals. And my husband and our kids made me a journal for Mother's Day, and we bought a laser, and they were able to laser a picture of the front of this barn in the journal. And that is just a treat for me to sit down in the mornings and journal on that. And I smell it. I have a couple of friends who have ordered journals, and we're sitting in church one day, and I looked over and I saw her smelling her journal. She's like, "This just smells so good. I love real leather."
I know.
Yeah.
Well, so now with your journals, do you guys just sew the paper on the inside, or are they covers?
That is a great question. So it is a leather cover, and then we put three, they're called A5 journals. It's just like a 5x7 shaped journal, and they come in like lined pages, dotted pages, blank pages. And so those can be refilled. So it's a leather cover with three
Cool.
journal inserts. And once they're filled, people can swap them out and get a new one. So
Oh, that's really
yeah,
cool. I
we
love
tend,
it.
yeah, we tend to not do a ton of, and you know this too, but not a lot of cookie cutter things. So we do a lot of just new and unique and different designs. And sometimes we make a journal and we'll only do one of that journal and
Yeah.
keep it individual.
So you guys are on Etsy. Tell everybody
Yep.
where they can shop.
So we are on Etsy. Everything Etsy, Facebook, Instagram is all Green Roof Gallery. So it's pretty
Yeah, and
easy to find.
And it's great to follow Bethany on Instagram because she will post pictures of new products that are coming to the shop and maybe things that other people have enjoyed and stuff like that, just some of the processes. And so I would encourage everyone listening to go and check it out for sure.
Aw, thanks so much, Amber.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Absolutely.
Get shopping, friends, or at least save this episode for reference when you are looking to buy your next gift. Don't forget to follow Grace Enough on Instagram at GraceEnoughPodcast_Amber so you can enter the giveaway coming on Friday, August 6th, 2021. I'll meet you back here tomorrow for day 12 of Christmas in July, featuring Imani Collective.